I just wanted to make this quick video as quick as possible to go over some of the documents that we'll be signing when we start putting in offers. Now, because everything happens so quickly and sometimes we're going to be putting in multiple offers in one day, I have no issue with doing that. I just wanted to create something that you can always reference back to fully understand all of the documents because it can seem like really, really quick and that everything is coming to you at once. So I want to quickly go over some of these documents and just go over exactly what you're signing. So we're going to start with the agency disclosure document. This is something that you are definitely going to see with every single offer. And as you can see, I did block out the client's information, who this offer was for, just to protect their privacy, of course. So the agency disclosure document, it simply states who has agency for what client. So as you can see, it has the property address, your information right here as the buyer, and it will have the seller's information, which is private, which is public information. And if it's two real estate agents from two separate brokerages, you'll see my name for representing you, and then you will see the listing agent's name representing their broker. If it is two real estate agents in the same brokerage, you'll see it here. And just because two real estate agents are in the same brokerages, that does not mean that they know each other. We just happen to be under the same company, but it could be just two separate offices as well. And if it's one real estate agent, that's typically a situation where we're doing new construction. And that one real estate agent would be me, and you will see this part filled out right here. So all you have to do on this page will be simply to click here to sign. Dotloop makes it really easy. It's really very similar to DocuSign. So you would just click here and sign, and you will be done. Right under here, you'll see the dual agency. That is just saying if I was representing both the buyer and the seller, these would be my responsibility, which basically says that I have to be honest and upfront and represent both sides with integrity. So there's nothing for you to sign on this page. We will just simply go to the next page. So the next document in this series is the residential purchase contract. So all of this will be filled out for you. And before we make every single offer, we are going to talk about the offer that we make to make sure that we're making a competitive offer that you feel comfortable with. But remember that we are in a competitive market. So if I ever suggest an offer to you that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to make that kind of offer, definitely you can wind it down, but just know that every offer I make is based on my research of the market and data and just something that I feel like will win. But I'm always going to have your best interest in mind. So up here, this will just be the information about the property along with our offer that we discussed. Section 2 is if you have an attorney, which is definitely not necessary because you have a licensed real estate agent. However, if the situation was sticky, like a divorce or a situation where we had to go through probate court or any type of estate sale, I would definitely tag in one of my real attorney colleagues to thoroughly look over the documents to make sure that all parties get what they need from the contract. But just for a simple purchase of a house with no sticky stuff, you do not need an attorney. So financing, if we were doing a cash offer, all cash, then we would be filling out section 3.1 with your initials here. But because we're doing financing, we would fill out right here. And this just simply states that your offer is contingent upon financing. And right here, it says that we are going to deliver a proof that you could be financed, which would be your pre-approval letter. Since I never submit an offer without a pre-approval letter, I will put attached, have you sign here that you are going to submit an offer with proof that you can obtain a loan. So we just discussed your loan information down here. If you were FHA, conventional, or VA, I will put that information here. And this just simply says that if the loan was to get accepted, we would be filling out the official loan application with your lender within 1 calendar day. So please note that just because you have a pre-approval from a lender, that does not mean that you are fully qualified and underwritten for the house. There's still an underwriting process that has to go on, and sometimes the underwriting process could disqualify you from buying a house. So you just want to make sure that you're not doing anything crazy or having any type of credit inquiries or anything like that throughout this whole buying the house process. So loan commitment just essentially says that we are going to promise the seller that the lender will have a officially approved loan within 28 days. That's more than enough time. Appraisal contingency. So we make offers. Sometimes we make crazy offers that look really, really good just to get the seller's attention. But what it all really boils down to, if you're using financing, is what the bank says. So the bank will send out a independent appraiser, which is just some person who goes out and look at some recent sales and make an opinion on what they think the house is worth. So let's say we make an offer for 195 as this contract states, and the appraiser goes out and he says, well, I don't think that house is worth more than 190. So if we're writing an offer with an appraisal gap, and we offered them about a $3,000 appraisal gap, then that means that we are going to have to give them the whole 3,000 because we want to be as close to what we promised them, which was 195, as possible. So they will be walking away with 193, and that is fine because they agreed to that. So what the appraisal contingency says is, if you feel like you don't want to give them the $3,000, even though you said in the contract that you would, you have 5 days to put in writing that you want to cancel the contract. This is your way out. So there are 3 ways out of a contract, and we'll be going over all 3. But appraisal contingency is one. So anytime we make an aggressive offer and we have a high appraisal gap, I never like to make offers that I think that I'm going to just have to cancel, because of course that's a detriment to everybody involved, including the sellers. But there has been times when buyers have gotten cold feet and decided to cancel the contract based on Section 3.2D, and I have to do my due diligence and make sure that they get out scotch clean. So if we have a situation with earnest money where we're giving a seller earnest money, and we do not provide earnest money within a certain minute of time, they can go ahead and do a demand for financing evidence. The same thing with a pre-approval letter. If we did not submit the pre-approval letter within 7 days, they can definitely send us a demand for evidence of financing. So just moving down, this section here is about taxes, and it just basically says that the seller is responsible for paying all of their delinquent taxes and any liens regarding the property. Now, what comes with the property? So anything that's affixed to the wall, if you flip the house upside down and whatever falls off, the seller gets to walk away with. Whatever sticks to the house, it's yours by contract. So that includes all light fixtures, anything, any media brackets. So that means like any mounts, they have to leave the mounts. They can take the TV, but they have to leave the mount. Of course, any attached mirrors or, got garage door openers or anything like that. Now, what actually doesn't come with the house is appliances. That's a common misconception that appliances come with a house. It doesn't, but it does look nice for sellers to leave appliances for the new buyers. So I would just write in here that we want all window coverings because, again, that's something that does not come with a house. But who wants to move into a house without any window coverings? That's kind of inconvenient. And then I also say appliances as seen in the MLS. So if you've seen it online and the seller didn't outrightly say that it was not going to come with the house, I'll definitely ask for it to be in the contract. But what's not included in here is washer and dryer. So sometimes the washer and dryer, the seller wants to take their washer and dryer with them, and that's their prerogative. They can do that if they want. Unless you outrightly ask me to put it in the contract. And I will just weigh the pros and cons because I wouldn't want us to lose an offer just because we wanted the washer and dryer. So, inspections and tests. So, as a buyer, you have a legal right, and the board of realtors actually should strongly suggest that you get inspections on your house. But sometimes, in order to be super competitive in this market, we have to do crazy things, and sometimes that means that we have to get a house without any inspections as is. That's not my favorite thing to do, but I feel more secure with newer houses they're really, really updated and have good bones. And we can make that I can make that determination pretty quickly within a house. I've been in so many right by this point. But if there's a house that I feel like you definitely should have inspections, the contract would look something like this. So it will say that the buyer has 4 days. I will either be 4 or 5 days to after the contract becomes fully executed to go ahead and schedule inspections. Don't worry, we have a whole list of inspectors ready. With just a click of a button, we can schedule your inspections and have someone out the next day. So even though it's only 4 days, the people that I work with are really fast. But having it shortened to 4 days just looks better on the sellers because they feel like they're not wasting their time with buyers who may want to cancel the contract. So we're telling them that we want 4 days to perform inspections. And the most common inspections are termite, radon, and general inspections. And we'll go over that in a lot more detail a little bit later. So should you perform these inspections? Just you have to make sure that the inspection company is licensed and bonded. It can't be your cousin who's also a contractor. You want to make sure that you're using a reputable inspection company because this is a very serious matter. Now, if we were in a situation where we were not buying a house as is, and we knew that we were going to ask the seller for to fix anything should it come up the inspection report, it would be called a remedy. It would be called a remedy time. So right here, it will have a number, which would typically be 2 days, that after inspections are done, you would tell me what you want the seller to fix, and they would have 2 days to respond of what they're going to do. Now, if you are not satisfied with what they're going to fix, or in general, if you're not satisfied with the items on your inspection report, that is the second way you can get. Honestly, that's the first way, and the appraisal is the second way, but that is a way you can get out of the contract. So I'm not telling you these ways because I like to waste time and get you into contract and do all that due diligence up front just so you can, slide out of the contract. But I am telling you that if you really feel strongly that this house just has too many things that you were not aware of, and I definitely agree with you. I will get you out of this contract. You are not bound. I know this contract like the back of my hand. I will find every loophole to get you out of this contract. But just know that we're not in a business to just hop in and out of contracts just because there's a lot that goes on to get you in these contracts, if that makes sense. So we would just submit a notice of termination. And the only thing that I will tell you is that if we do an earnest money, the seller has a right to keep your earnest money at that point. So if you put down like a $500 earnest money deposit, that's called a good faith deposit. That's you telling the seller that in good faith, I'm going to buy this house. Now, if you cancel the contract for any reason other than financing, they have a right to keep your earnest money. So keep that in mind. If you are buying a condo, this is so it's 3 ways to get out of contract, but this is like a secret fourth. If you are in a condo and the seller does not provide you with the condo association's information within 5 calendar days so that you have time to get in contact with the condo, read the deed restriction and bylaws, and see if you even like it here, you can cancel the contract. You can cancel the contract through written notice if they do not provide you with that information. But just so you know, sellers have been getting really slick with this. So they actually started to put the condo association information right in the MLS, right with the listing. So you cannot say that they didn't give you the information because it was on the listing before you even wrote the offer. So at that point, it will be up to you to do your due diligence in order to get in touch with the condo association. So if we're ever writing an offer on a condo, I will definitely give you the condo association information. And sometimes they even attach the bylaws and everything of that sort in the paperwork up front. So just know that if it's a condo, we typically have their information up front. So we rarely ever use this, but it is here. So if we were to get a home warranty, and again, I don't want to make this video too long, but again, you can come back and re-look over things, but I just want to make sure we go over everything in detail. So if you would get a home warranty, this is basically I use a separate home warranty than what the broker wants us to use. So I just put see attached, and you'll see in a different form where I put the home warranty that my buyers and sellers use the most and they have the best experience with. So this is pretty interesting. On a deed, do you know what comes on a deed? So imagine this. Imagine that you buy a house, right? And it's beautiful and it has a big yard, and you decide I want to put a swimming pool back here. So you start to dig up your backyard and you uncover like the world's most hidden gold mine, right? Like literal gold or diamonds or anything of value, right? The prior owner has absolutely no right to that gold or anything. As soon as the deed is recorded, which as selling, they signed the documents, the deed is no longer in their name. Okay. As soon as the deed is recorded, you own the land, the minerals, the air rights, everything about that land is yours. So if you dig up in your backyard and you find some gold, the seller could never, ever come back and say, hey, that's my gold. I left it there. Well, they should have took it out before they signed over the deed. It's yours now. So on top of that, you don't only get the good stuff, but sometimes you get the bad stuff. Sometimes you will get like certain restrictions that's already set forth, or like you can't like deed restrictions, like you can't maybe have a 6-foot fence or something like that in your community. Conditions or easements. If your neighbor has a legal easement that they can use your driveway to cross over to their house and they have the paperwork to show it, these things do exist. You just have to deal with it because that was an easement that came with your land, right? Same things with zoning ordinances or anything set forth. So you get the good, bad, and the ugly. So insurance, title insurance, this is not home warranty, this is not home insurance, this is just title insurance. And this basically protects you from the title company stealing your money. Utility charges and everything else. Just know that the seller is responsible for taking care of all liens before they give you the house, and the title company makes sure of that. So this is a pretty interesting one. The destruction of premises. Now, this is why we do our final walkthrough. It's very important that we do a final walkthrough. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that that house look how it's supposed to look before you close. Now, if we do a final walkthrough, and this is why I do it 2 days before we close, because on that day, if we find something that does not look right, we're supposed to submit something in writing 2 days before closing, saying that we need to extend the closing date until they can get this fixed, because I am not closing on a house with a hole in the wall. I've been to a final walkthrough, and I've seen like the neighbors stole the air conditioning unit from outside. Of course, they had to replace that air conditioning unit, or we weren't going to close. So you can either agree to extend the contract, agree to extend to a closing date, and once they can get that fixed, you can either accept the premises, and once you accept it as is, you can't then go back and say, "Hey, I need you to fix this," because you decided to accept it. Or you can terminate the contract. Now, of course, I wouldn't want you to terminate. I wouldn't want to get all the way to closing and you terminate the contract. I will always try to go above and beyond to try to see how we can remedy this without having the whole thing fall apart. That's just my nature. I just want everybody to have a happy ending. So the best options would be either extending closing, because the seller could probably use their home warranty to replace whatever's missing, or well, that is probably the best option, because I wouldn't want you to accept it as is, and I definitely don't want you to terminate the contract. So moving forward, now if you did not say anything to the seller about it, it's assumed that you don't care and you're totally cool with it. And like I said, you just can't come back on them once you already accepted it. And if you also you find something after you close that nobody knew about it after you close, then we suggest you just hit the courts. You're fully entitled to go to court and sue for anything that you think the seller may have known about that they didn't tell you. So earnest money. Earnest money, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but it is your good faith investment. So your good faith investment is you saying, I'm going to give you $500, maybe $1,000, maybe even $2,000 up front. And I'm going to give you that money so that you know that I'm serious about buying this house. Now, again, when we're making competitive offers in a competitive market, that just helps you stand out. And of course, it will probably be more likely that we'll get our offer accepted. So in that instance, you'll just sign here that you're going to deliver the earnest money within 3 calendar days of acceptance. So sometimes we're giving earnest money before we even perform inspections. I will try my best to get it to after we perform inspections. That way you're not giving your earnest, you're not at risk of losing your earnest money before we do inspections. It really just depends on the competitiveness of the house is how I'll make that decision. But that's why I always say maybe not go to the house that has 80 other offers on it, but that's a different video. So we are almost at the end of this contract. Don't worry, it is a lot of information, and that's why I wanted to have you have a separate video that you can always come back and reference. And I just don't want you to feel like you don't know what you're signing. So this just goes over, different terms like what is a broker, who represents who, what kind of signatures are acceptable, what constitutes as a date of acceptance, um, and different jargon. Of course, we have the fair housing law. That just basically means that we cannot discriminate based on race, military status, color, religion, things, pretty much anything. Just be fair to people, essentially. The residential property disclosure form. We're going to go over that form pretty quickly. Um, next thing. If Ohio sex trafficker registration law. If a sex offender lives in the area, it is actually your responsibility to do your due diligence to see if it's a sex offender registered in your area. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you gotta let us know up front. But you just gotta realize that it's no one else's responsibility but yours. Property conditions. So the seller is they just want to know that when you close on this property, you have looked at the property, you have examined it, and you feel like in good faith that it is a good property, and you agreeing that you're buying it. And agency disclosure, we've already talked about that. Closing and possession. So this is where you'll see the closing and possession dates. Typically, closing takes 30 days, but sometimes we can get closed sooner, and sometimes closing gets pushed back. This will be the first closing date, and if anything else happens, then we'll sign an addendum and we'll change the closing date. We'll do our final walkthrough 2 days before closing, and sometimes possession is on closing date, and possession means the day that you actually get the keys to the house. Sometimes that is on the closing date, and sometimes that is a month after that. It just depends on what agreement we came up with once we negotiate the offer. But I can tell you that sometimes in this market, the seller does ask for like a week extra possession. So they want to close and then have a week to move out. Most buyers are okay with that. Some buyers are like, no, I want my keys at closing. Really just depends. But I can tell you that most buyers are okay with that. So if you want to be the buyer that needs possession at closing, that could be a reason why you don't win the offer. Flexibility is everything. So we just know that the seller needs to remove all personal items once you take possession of the house. At no point should the seller still be moving out on your date of possession per the contract 15.4. And you heard how I said that, and that is exactly what the email would say. Per the contract 15.4. Your sellers need to take their stuff out the house. So the offer duration would be how long we're leaving an offer open for. And then finally, the last page is just your information. The most important information on this page will be who is deeded to. So we just want to make sure that you are on the deed, or if you want someone else on the deed, we'll put that information there. And we're on to the next one. Almost done. All right, y'all. This video does not have to be any more longer. We already went over the most important document, which was the purchase contract. So this is just the residential purchase disclosure. This is what the seller will fill out to let you know of anything that they may know that may be wrong with the house, or just some information. So a lot of sellers typically just don't say much about the house. Like, yes, it's public water. We don't really know much of anything else. But sometimes they do fill in what they do know. So you can see that they did fill in some information here, and they said that in 2019 there was some excess moisture on the west side of the basement, and they had Ohio Basement Authority come out and fix it, and they hadn't had any issues since 2019. That's a really good information for you to know as a buyer, because should the issue re-arise in a couple years and they ask you, have you ever had any basement issues, you can say, well, 3 years ago we had some basement issues. The prior owners did. Okay, so it's just giving you some knowledge about the house. But I'm be honest with you, most of these forms are usually blank, and not blank, but you'll see a bunch of no, 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 not available. Just because sometimes people just move in a house and don't do anything to the house, and so they don't know. So you would just sign here, and also this protects the seller too, because then you can't go back and say, oh, I didn't know this, because they definitely told you. So if you have a house that was built before 1978, 1968, this probably got lead-based paint in it. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. Any older house is probably under about 100 layers of wallpaper and paint and maybe some brick. You never know. But underneath all of that, it's probably going to be some lead-based paint. So I just need to take these notifications off. But anywho, it's underneath that is probably going to be some lead-based paint, and you're just acknowledging that you understand you're buying an older house that may have lead-based paint. So you would just be signing here, 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 and of course, I will be signing here, letting everyone know that you saw the document. So that's essentially it. If it's a team, they'll probably have a team disclosure that they want you to sign just for compliancy, just letting the world know that they're on a team. But honestly, this is pretty much it. So that is the documents that you'll be signing, and you'll be signing these documents every single time we make an offer. But you can always reference back this video if you have specific questions on a specific document. And yeah, you can keep this video forever and ever. I will be talking to you soon. Have an amazing day.